Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing Elvis. So Elvis is the newest biopic about the famous singer Elvis Presley, and the film follows his life from the beginning, origins, how he got his sound, how he grew up, to everything that ultimately led to the ending of his life. And the first thing I have to say right away is that Austin Butler is phenomenal in this movie. It's a very chameleonic performance where you really forget that it isn't Elvis. He sounds like Elvis, he looks like Elvis, he captures all those different moments in his life, and he's able to play the range of this kind of wide-eyed new artist to someone who is kind of jaded and used up by the system, and having someone play every single part of those roles with a little bit of some makeup, some costuming to make it help along the way. It's just really immersive. Tom Hanks is also good as his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. There's a lot of prosthetics going on. I have to say, at first it is a little distracting, him having that voice and looking the way he does. It almost is very reminiscent of the Penguin, but once you get past it and you really can enjoy his performance and the way that he's playing this really corrupt individual and this very strange person, it really makes it that much better of a film. This film is also directed by the same director who did The Great Gatsby in 2013, and I can tell that it has those very distinct stylistic choices that I think in this film work better than even in that film. The movie has a ton of kinetic energy. While the movie is over 2.5 hours long, it never feels like it's a really slow film. There's a lot of energy that goes in, especially the first half of the movie, and I like how the tone and kind of the kinetic energy of the movie matches Elvis's life in those times, and kind of how his life slows down and this kind of frantic rise to fame, this incredible stardom, to kind of when his star starts to fizzle out and his life is kind of falling apart by the end of it. And one of the things that I found really interesting about the movie is, as someone who isn't like a huge Elvis fan, or I don't know a lot about Elvis's history or his life, there's a lot to learn. It's an incredible story about triumph and family and just being kind of used and all the things that go into that, and kind of the ultimate rise to fame and then the fall from grace. All of that's captured in this story, and all the performances, like I said, they're just so compelling that this movie, like I said, while it is a little bit longer, I was fully into it the whole time. One of the interesting things that the movie does is that it's narrated from the perspective of Colonel Parker. So while he's an unreliable narrator, you're getting his side of the story as well as kind of what is happening in reality, and that juxtaposition creates some interesting moments in the film, and it has these almost surreal moments where you're seeing this man who's on his deathbed telling these kind of muses of how he imagined his life compared to what actually happened. The movie also integrates the current events at the time, so you get to see the world through Elvis's lens, how he experiences these events, from the assassination of Martin Luther King, the assassination of RFK, to the civil rights movement, to segregation, and how he lived through all that, and maybe his influence in some of the things that happened during that time. Because like I said, I'm not a huge Elvis fan. I wasn't around when Elvis was around. I didn't know kind of his touchstone as an artist and how influential he was as an artist. I knew he was obviously very big, but I didn't know he kind of brought forth this idea of what maybe people would say is modern rock music. The movie also, in a way, like I said, it tackles race relations, which was something I wouldn't expect. But then now that I learned more about Elvis's past, it makes sense. It understands how all these things happen. So while it is a story, obviously, of Elvis, of his management, of his life, you get to see these little glimpses into the past and how things were for someone who didn't experience them like me. Obviously, what everybody wants to know is the music good. I think it's really good. I think Austin Butler does a fantastic job capturing Elvis's sound. And they also do a really solid job of integrating some modern music into it, so it doesn't feel entirely like you're just hearing, Elvis's catalog played throughout his life. It kind of jumps into some more high-paced music, some music that maybe modern audiences would connect with. So I think if you are a fan of Elvis, you'll enjoy this film. But if you're going in like me, someone who doesn't really know a lot, my largest exposure to Elvis music is the Lilo and Stitch soundtrack that I loved growing up. But I didn't really know him as a person or what his life was like. So having all these blend together, it's a good mixture for all audiences. The production design of this movie is also really well done. Like The Great Gatsby, there is a lot of costuming that goes into it, a lot of throwbacks to what life was like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and being able to capture, like I said, Elvis's costumes from his early days to what he looked like when he was in Las Vegas in the ultimate Hawaii show. Seeing all these different costumes, it really takes you there. That was one of the really things that I think of when I think of Elvis, is his costuming, his hair, the way he sang, and they're able to capture that in a way that's, in my opinion, really compelling. So if I were to rate Elvis, I would actually give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's one of the best films of the year. I think as of right now, Austin Butler is a shoo-in for nominated for Best Actor. I would have him as my Best Actor right now. Granted, there hasn't been that many films out yet. We have a lot of awards films to come, but he is phenomenal. Tom Hanks is great in supporting, and just all the filmmaking aspects of it, while they're very stylized, it captures Elvis and his story in a way that I think that'll be really interesting to audiences like myself. So if you checked out Elvis, let me know what you thought about it, and also let me know if you're someone who was a big Elvis fan and you go into it if you enjoyed it, or if you're someone like me that went in blind and how you felt about it, because I really do want to know if Elvis fans like this movie, if they feel like it's a good representation of him, or if it isn't the best. So leave those comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.